This is an HR program on demand, a living seed capsule of work life and workplace coming live from a rooftop in Stockholm, Sweden. It's me, Anne-Marie, and
me, Katarina Berg.
A vodcast, if you like, on HR, straight across the counter. Sponsored by HR The Real Deal, HR by HR for HR. Hi, Katarina.
Hey.
So again, in the news, we see a lot of interesting comments on and articles on returning back to work and companies forcing people back to the workplace, the office. Now, you've had the Work From Anywhere program for a few years. I know that you do regular check-ins with your bandmates so that you can learn and tweak the program. Where are you now with the program, but also if you were to reflect upon the forcing back to office, what would be your reflections?
I think when we launched Spotify Work From Anywhere program, we were quite articulate about a couple of things. We're going to do what is best for us, and we're going to learn, and we're going to be in dialogue with our people, and we're going to tweak from that. And try to even remind people about the different phases of work revolution, or how it evolved over different times, right? And it sounds a bit like, why would you do that? Because we think it's going to change even faster. It was one thing, but two, the way that we have worked, when everybody comes together and work very closely, where you can overhear, you can see each other, you can check in. We kind of learned that over working together in a farm, in a factory, or in a plant, but also in offices. So that is hundreds of years of experience of how do we do this together, and easier to identify, easier for people like you and me to also build a culture, because we know how to do that. When you come into one office or a couple of offices, you brand them, you remind people, you remind of what it is to play for this team rather than that team, even if that team is also great and awesome. So those were really important things when we launched it. And sometimes even your own people are not reminded, or if you would ask people at Spotify, they were like, are you really in dialogue with us? And you go, yeah, there is a couple of questions in the survey. There is
an engagement survey.
Yes,
yeah.
And there is one of my teams is Global Workplaces Service. They will also talk to people, especially when we rebuild or we change an office, or we kind of minimize the space because we're not using, or we're utilizing it in a new way, and so on and so forth. So we are in constant dialogue, and the information does not come from just the census of how do we use an office, when do we use an office. It's not just how many people choose, because you could choose in our program from an office mix and home mix. How many do that? And every year when they change, so we know how big of a footprint when it comes to offices we need to have or should have in the coming year. It's so many different ways where we use information, and also the more free text, or kind of the conversations, and then we tweak. So for instance, what we learned from the beginning, everybody could choose a home mix and office mix. And then we got really strong feedback from especially the people that came directly from a university or a high school, right? And also from their managers, but also from their colleagues, saying, when you don't know, you don't know. How to ask, how to be, how to show up, what is good work, or when it's good enough, or when I can go home, or should I work a bit more? So then we changed it after that information, saying, for people that never been to a workplace, for the first year, you're going to have office mix, because it's going to be good for you. Not because we're telling you, it's not like mandatory in that sense, because we want to control you or we don't trust you. It's because they were kind of, I don't know what to do, and I don't know when I'm done, and all that. And mental health way, it was stressful for them.
Yeah.
So we've done it, and also for people that are more senior, for the first 6 months, we recommend them to come into the office. And not everybody's there, right? Because you have the freedom and flexibility. That was the second thing. We are not going back, but what we see then, to your question is, we hear and we read too, and we get a lot of questions about this company now is like demanding a return to office. Is RTO left and right and center, up and down? But we are not them, and we are being asked like, what is your response to that? Our response is nothing except for, I would, for instance, the biggest name, I think, if you are interested in bigger service in data collection, and also not just collecting the dots but connecting them. Nick Bloom is doing really good work over at MIT, and he's also writing really good papers on what we do, and what we do not at Spotify, like all over the place for different industries, for different companies. And I think we all know that the future is closer to what we are offering here, because most people want to have that freedom and flexibility. But then again, we also know, and that goes for Spotify too, there are a couple of roles here too, where if you, for instance, work in the reception, it's going to be impossible to work from home. But when you apply for a job like that, your expectations will not be that you can open the office from home.
No, true.
So I think we just need to be sober. I think we need to have that open dialogue. I think you have to start with the company, your culture, who you are, what you want to do. But is it attracting? Yes. I think the numbers in the articles that kind of went viral the last, I think, 8 weeks of why do we stick at Spotify to our work from anywhere program is, the numbers are, our attrition went down with 50%, and it's not just solely due to work from anywhere.
It has an impact.
So it has an impact. Are we more attractive now? At least we're not less attractive, right? And do people value this? They do. And but I think it goes back to culture. We dare to be a trust-based company. And we do that also because speed goes up, right? And speed is essential, especially in a very connected and also competitive world. So we're not just doing this because we're the nicest employer, but we're doing this because we think it's kind of the smart thing to do. And again, it's what our employees say that they want. So I sometimes hear everybody that is not a part of the band, they go like, oh, I would love to work at Spotify. Everything is so good with that culture. You are so people first, and work from anywhere is great. Then I hear people inside the company go like, we haven't seen much of changes to the work from anywhere. Our expectation is that it's going to change all the time. We go like, so, the grass might not be greener outside, but you are never done. Right? It's about those small iterations, and sometimes that iteration can go one step back. But going back to mandating in an organization that was built and born digital, and where we trust each other, and where this is nothing that we connect with productivity and efficiency, it's not going to happen. But it's interesting to follow. To your point, I think these articles are interesting because even industries that I would guess, and companies and brands that I would guess would keep their hybrid or remote, they're now asking people to come in 3 and then 4 and now 5 days a week. I would not have expected that. That surprises me, I have to say.
Yeah, very good.
Yep.
So it helps you to attract. It helps you to retain your people.
Yeah.
How does it impact positively or negatively? Let's see what you answer. The internal mobility and the development of your talent.
It does, right? And this is where the math gets a bit, or equation gets a bit, not hairy and not necessarily challenging, but it's hard to explain for people that have not done what you and I have done for a long time. So if you believe, for instance, internal mobility, and you really would like to do what you've been saying, in our case, that we believe in homegrown and recruit from within, and then you start to kind of enable the system and build out tools and make sure that that happens, and you start to see really engaging numbers and go, okay, hey, we cracked a couple of codes here. and we're doing what we're saying, which is always important, right? Then if tenure is longer and you're not in hypergrowth, you truly will get to a point where it's going to slow down too in internal mobility.
Yeah.
Why? Because people are not moving out, and a lot of new roles and a new kind of setting is not happening. So I think you have to again go back to those dualities and polarities that we usually talk about here at Spotify, and go, yes, we still believe in homegrown, we still believe in recruiting from within. Yes, internal mobility is important because you have that institutional knowledge, kind of understand how to do things, how to be impactful, you work cross, functional, all those things that is amazing for a company. At the same time, we didn't want to be like most tech companies, have our people to stay around for 1.3, 2 years. Daniel actually set a target on me that he said all business critical positions, all roles that we might not have that much of, but that are very important in many ways. And why not for all, he added too. I think they should stay 7 to 8 years in this company. And in the beginning, I'm like, okay, the math is going to be very hard because we were quite young as a company. We just turned 18 now. But I looked into the numbers together with Arvid, our head of HR Insights and Comp and Ben, right? And for key people, and you can start to think then, what is that? But that is different definitions of different companies. They now saying 7.6, very close to that target of Mr. X. But so that excites me too. So there's proof to the pudding. I think we now know, and I think 68%, I think it was close to 68%, moved into a new role in the way that we define having. It's not necessarily always promotions. It's like wider or more trickier or more challenging, or a different scope or a different function or a different team. Pretty good numbers,
It's really good. So 68% during this year. And you haven't closed it yet?
No.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah. My team, when they watch this, going to go, it wasn't 68, maybe it was 62. And go,
60-ish.
Oh my God. Yeah.
It's still a good number.
It's a very good number.
So what are you doing then? If you were to, could you distill that in 3 things? What are you doing to get that movement into the organization?
One, we started before we had this as a mantra. We made sure that our managers, our leaders understood that talent is not their talent.
Exactly.
It is the company's talent.
Yes.
And rather you lose them to a great growth journey internally, then you keep them and then they move outside the company. So it's a mindset. It is all like it's leadership. So invested in that and the narrative around that. The second thing is to create an internal talent marketplace, right? And making sure that it's open, it's transparent, it's more democratized too, which is quite tricky because you could easily over-engineer or stop working on that. And here I think we can do much better on both, but I think we're doing fairly good. And again, trying to kind of jump into that cold water before all the solutions is there and it's like a perfect thingy. And the third thing that I think is important is that kind of the strategic workforce planning that usually is talked about in most organizations. I think, again, it's a collaboration with the very, very smart and very business embedded HR BPs in my team, and in collaboration also with finance in kind of behind the curtains. And that doesn't mean that it's anything that is secret or it's like a Pope election. It's like they just come together with their processes, making sure that we don't go, as we say in Sweden, over the creek to fetch water. That we really stay where we are and make sure that we add the system sometimes with skills sets that we need and other experiences, but mostly really trust that if we can grow talent, that's going to be better for the individuals, for the company, and for the growth of the company.
True.
Yeah.
Echo that.
Yeah.
And the strategic workforce plan happens in the budget process, right?
It happens every day.
It happens every day?
Yes.
What does that mean?
I think one person that you could maybe
Invite?
back, Johan Sedgren, because he's kind of the mastermind behind what we are doing now, which is on a daily basis. Of course, it needs to be on a daily basis because of internal movement and what happens and all that. But it's so many other functions. I mean, it's the talent intelligence team. It is the strategic work that we do. It's the succession planning. It's the internal mobility thingy. And then, of course, the things that Gary has been talking about.
Exactly.
You know, it's based on Disco, our people analytics tool. Echo Scout is doing it, and now we're launching Bounce. But more to come on that.
Okay, so ping Gary, ping Johan Sellgren, ping a few more. Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, let's close it.
Yes, let's do that before it gets too cold
Yes.
on this rooftop. So stay safe, stay
Strong.
active.
No, stay strong.
Okay.
Stay safe.
Okay.
Stay strong.
Should we do it again?
Yes.
Stay safe, stay strong, stay
Stay
active.
active. I medalje. What do you mean? You don't know your own 3 things.
I do, but I can do them in different order. It's up to me and my brain.
Alltså, hur svårt kan det vara liksom?
It's hard.
Kom nu. Ja, det är kallt. Jag fattar inte hur du står så där.
That's good.
Yeah, it was longer. But she has so many
Can you
things
take a
she wanted to say.
Okay. Hey.
Hey. She's eyeballing me.
Tysta leken börjar nu.